as Jesus walked, so I shall walk, held by your same unchanging love. Peace to my soul. Oh, lift your voice and pray, Father, not my will, but yours be done. How in the garden he persisted, I may never fully know the fearful weight of true obedience. It was held by him alone. What wondrous faith to bear that cross, to bear my sin. What wondrous love. My hope was sure when there my Savior prayed, Father, not my will, but yours be done. When I am lost, when I am broken, in the night of fear and doubt, still I will trust in my good Father. Yes, to one great King I bow. As Jesus rose, so I shall rise, here in some glory at the throne. My heart restored, with all your saints I sing, Father, not my will, but yours be done. As we go forth, thou God and Father, lead us daily in the fight, that all the world might see your glory and your name be lifted high. And in his name we overcome, for you shall see us safely home. Now as your church we lift our voice and pray, Father, not my will, but yours be done. And in this name we overcome, for you shall see us safely home. Now as your church we lift our voice and pray, Father, not my will, but yours be done. Father, not my will, but yours be done.
Welcome to Easter Sunrise, brought to you by Wesley Mission. Broadcast on Channel 9, simulcast on radio and streaming online. Welcome the Superintendent of Wesley Mission, Reverend Stu Cameron.
Hello and welcome to this Easter sunrise celebration from Mrs Macquarie's Point on the shores of Sydney Harbour, a place that's coming alive right now. I'm joining you from the land of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and rising. This is a really special time of the year where people all around the world, every nation, language group and culture comes together and celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The way we celebrate and express ourselves might be different, not only around the world, but also here in Australia. But however you celebrate today, I'd like to wish you and those you love a very happy and blessed Easter. We come together today and recognise that Jesus, God's one and only Son, lived among us, died for us, and was raised to life, creating a way for us to experience God's resurrection power. Now, if at any point during this program you have any questions about the Christian faith or anything you hear me say, please don't hesitate to be in touch. The contact details are on the screen now, and we'll show that again a number of times throughout this hour. A little later on, it'll be my privilege to speak with Olympic high jump silver medalist Nicola Mcdermott. Nicola had us all sitting on the edge of our seats late at night during the Olympics last year. We're all cheering as she moved between writing in her diary and jumping for a medal at the Tokyo Games. I'm really looking forward to that conversation a little later on. But first, I'm thrilled to welcome back City of Light, who are with us again this year to sing Only a Holy God.
Who else commands all the hosts of heaven? Who else could make every king bow down? Who else could whisper and darkness trembles? Only a holy God. What other beauty demands such praises? What other splendor outshines the sun? What other majesty rules with justice? Only a holy God. Come and behold Him, the one and the only. Cry out, sing holy, forever a holy God. Come and worship the holy God. What other glory consumes like fire? What other power can raise the dead? What other name remains undefeated? Only a holy God. Come and behold Him, the one and the only. Cry out, sing holy, forever a holy God. Come and worship the holy Who else could rescue me from my failings? Who else would offer His only Son? Who else invites me to call Him Father? Only a holy God. Only my holy God. Come and behold Him, the one and the only. Cry out, sing holy, forever a holy God. Come and worship the holy God. Come and worship the holy God.
I'd like to encourage you to consider and think about the significance of Easter and what Easter can mean to you, your loved ones, your family and your friends. For some of us, it's a long weekend filled with family, sport, and it's really welcome. For others, it's a significant religious moment. And for others still, It's the central message of the Christian faith. The resurrection of Jesus Christ changed the course of human history, and we recognise that today. Throughout the program, I'd like to unpack and explain a little about the significance of Easter and how we can deal with days of pain, days of doubt and confusion, and how there are better days ahead for us all. In just a moment, members of the team at Wesley Mission will share with us a passage from the Bible which helps to set the context of today's program.
Early on the first day of the week, while it was still dark, Mary Magdalene went to the tomb and saw that the stone had been removed from the entrance.
So she came running to Simon Peter and the other disciple, the one that Jesus loved, and said, "They've taken the Lord out of the tomb, and we don't know where they've put him."
So Peter and the other disciple started for the tomb. Both were running, but the other disciple outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He bent over and looked in at the strips of linen lying there, but did not go in.
Then Simon Peter, who was behind him, arrived and went into the tomb. He saw the strip linen lying there, as well as the burial clothes that had been around Jesus' head. Then the clothes was folded up by itself, separate from the linen.
Finally, the other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, also went inside. He saw and believed. They still did not understand from Scripture that Jesus had to rise from the dead. Then the disciples went back to their homes.
But Mary stood outside the tomb crying. And as she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot.
They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They've taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they've put him." At this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realise that it was Jesus.
"Woman," he said, "why are you crying? Who is it that you're looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you've carried him away, tell me where you've put him and I'll get him."
Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher.
Jesus said, "Do not hold on to me, for I have not yet returned to the Father. Go instead to my brothers and tell them I am returning to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God."
Mary Magdalene went to the disciples with the news, "I've seen the Lord." And she told them that he had said these things to her.
Rick Warren is the author of The Purpose-Driven Life, one of the best-selling books of all time. Some years ago, he and his wife Kay experienced a devastating loss when their 27-year-old son Matthew died by suicide. Theirs was a very public grief. A year or so after Matthew's death, Rick shared this. "I've often been asked, how have you made it? How have you kept on going through your pain? And I've often replied, the answer is Easter." Rick Warren goes on to say this. You see, the death and burial and the resurrection of Jesus happened over 3 days. Friday was the day of suffering and pain and agony. Saturday was the day of doubt and confusion and misery. But Easter, that Sunday was the day of hope and joy and victory. He goes on to say this. Here's the fact of life. You'll face these 3 days over and over and over again in your lifetime. And when you do, you'll find yourself asking, as I did, 3 fundamental questions. Number 1, what do I do in my days of pain? Number 2, how do I get through my days of doubt and confusion? And 3, how do I get to the days of joy and victory? He says this, the answer is Easter. The answer is Easter. Today we rightly celebrate the resurrection, but the miracle of that first Easter Sunday only makes sense in the context of what happened the 2 days earlier. Easter is a Friday, Saturday, Sunday story. So we're going to look at those 3 days in turn, alongside the 3 questions Rick Warren says we will, have already, or are right now facing. What do I do in my days of pain? How do I get through my days of doubt and confusion? And how do I get to the days of joy and victory? But first, what do I do in my days of pain? Some of you watching right now are carrying real pain in the form of misery, loneliness, and suffering. For some of you, your pain is known by others. For others of you, it's secret pain, magnifying its effect. What do we do with our pain? Do we deny it? Run from it? Medicate it? One of the titles given to Jesus is the suffering servant. On Crucifixion Friday, Jesus endured agonizing spiritual, psychological, emotional, and physical pain, pain beyond our imagination. And, compelled by love, he willingly chose to endure it. On the cross, Jesus took up, carried, absorbed, and experienced all of our pain. On the cross, he endured all of our suffering. But that wasn't the worst of it. On the cross, Jesus endured the agony of separation from God, a terrifying isolation, what the Bible calls forsakenness. Over the 6 hours he hung on the cross, Jesus endured the agony of an eternal loss. This separation, this loss, was between God the Father and His Son, who had loved each other from all eternity. Jesus, the maker of the world, was being unmade. Why? Jesus was experiencing Judgment Day. My God, why have you forsaken me? It wasn't a rhetorical question. Why was he experiencing separation from the Father? The answer is for you, for me, for us. Jesus experienced separation, isolation, so that we would never have to. The judgment that should have fallen on us fell instead on Him. What does Easter teach us to do on those days when our pain threatens to overwhelm us? Simply this: we take it to the one who on the cross took up our pain and bore our suffering. Isaiah, the prophet, said this about Jesus: He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. When in prayer we take our pain to Jesus, we take it not to a God who is distant and dispassionate, but to a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief, who willingly chose to enter into the world's pain and suffering in order to destroy its power over us. The Good Friday story forever answers the question of where is God in our pain. The cross answers that God is with us, always with us, in the midst of it. So what do I do with my pain? In prayer, I take it to the one who on the cross already has borne it. What do I do when I despair at injustice that wreaks havoc and causes suffering across much of our world? In prayer, I cry out to the God who is just, at the same time asking for His strength in working with others for justice. Now, if you have any questions about anything I've said so far, about how you can take your pain to God, or about the Easter story, I encourage you to contact Wesley Mission, and I promise we will be in touch. Visit our website, wesleymission.org.au, to find out how. Also, if you would like to speak with someone about the loss of a loved one or any hardship you might be experiencing right now, please call Lifeline on 13 11 14. I'll see you in a few moments after the break.
I think people are amazing. We can turn dark to light. We can fly through storms. We can change worlds, but we can't always do it alone. If you need help, we could work together. Find out more at wesleymission.org.au. We are here for you.
This is Easter Sunrise, brought to you by Wesley Mission.
Welcome back to this Easter Sunrise celebration. This program is being broadcast on Channel 9 online and on radio across Australia. Wherever you're watching or listening, I'm thrilled to have you with us, and I hope this morning is a blessing to you. I'd like to invite you to pause for a moment now and join the Wesley Mission family in a moment of prayer for our people, for our nation, and indeed for the world.
My prayer this Easter is for peace.
Peace around the world.
Peace across Australia.
Peace in the city and suburbs.
And peace in our homes.
My prayer for this Easter is for the vulnerable people in our community, the marginalised and the people who cannot speak for themselves.
My prayer is for the people who stand in their place.
That they would be heard.
But we will find a way forward.
Respectful and united, that shares love, acceptance and hope.
My prayer this Easter is for children and families across Australia.
My prayer is for the support and social workers.
Doctors and nurses.
The people on the coalface and front lines.
Who dedicate their lives to serve others.
And to make the world a better place.
My prayer this Easter is for those who have gone before us,
who have cared for and now share these lands. My prayer is for the people in the cities and urban areas,
in regional, rural and remote areas.
That we will stand together in flood, fire and drought.
and fight for what is right.
With faith, hope and love.
My prayer this Easter is for leaders around the world.
The leaders across our country and our local communities.
My prayer is for transparency, honesty and integrity.
That we choose to see the good in each other.
For respectful conversations.
Kind actions and pure motivations.
My prayer this Easter is for all people, everywhere.
To find peace within
and draw closer to God.
I hope you can offer an amen in agreement with our prayer this morning. I'd like to also encourage you to pray your own prayer as well. For some, that may come naturally, and for others, it may be for the first time. But whatever your circumstances or situation, God is ready to lend an ear and hear your prayers. Let's welcome back now City of Light with another song appropriate to today.
Man of sorrows, Lamb of God, by His own betrayed, the sin of man and wrath of God has been on Jesus laid. Silent as He stood accused, beaten, mocked and scorned, bowing to the Father's will, He took a crown of thorns. Oh, thou rugged cross, my salvation, where your love poured out over me. And now my soul cries out, hallelujah, praise and honor unto thee. Sent of heaven, God's own Son, to purchase and redeem, reconcile the very ones who nailed Him to that that my Jesus built. Now the curse of sin has no hold on me. Whom the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. Now my debt is paid, it is paid in full by the precious blood, and my Jesus filled. Now the curse of sin has no hold on me. Whom the Son sets free, oh, is free indeed. Oh, thou rugged cross, my salvation, where your love poured out over me. And now my soul cries out, hallelujah, praise and honor to thee. See, the stone is rolled away. Behold the empty tomb. Hallelujah, God be praised. He's risen from the grave. Oh, that rugged cross, my salvation, where your love poured out over me. And now my soul cries out, hallelujah, praise and honor to thee.
On this Easter Sunday, we're exploring the 3 days of the Easter story: Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, through the 3 questions first posed by Rick Warren. They are these: what do I do in my days of pain? How do I get through my days of doubt and confusion? And how do I get to the days of joy and victory? Let's turn to Saturday and the second question: how do I get through my days of doubt and confusion? We will endure our Fridays, our days of pain and suffering, but we'll also have Saturday seasons, our days of doubt and confusion. That was certainly the case for the 12 men who followed Jesus right up to the point of his arrest and crucifixion. In those terrible, confusing hours, the disciples who'd enjoyed life with Jesus 24/7 for 3 years scattered to the 4 winds. On Saturday, all they had to show was confusion, fear, doubt, and despair. They were passing through the valley of the shadow of death. For some at least, that doubt and confusion lasted well after Sunday, the day Jesus was raised. Famously, Thomas, one of the 12, heard the reports about Jesus' resurrection, but was skeptical, doubtful, confused. Sunday had come and gone, but Thomas was still living under the grey cloud of doubt and confusion of Saturday. Jesus was alive. It sounded too good to be true. And you know the saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. But then Jesus appeared again to the disciples, this time including Thomas. Still, Thomas doubted. But Jesus didn't dismiss Thomas's doubts. He embraced them. Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe, Jesus said. Jesus invited Thomas to explore and test his doubts. Thomas, you don't know if I'm real or a figment of your imagination. You don't know if it's me standing before you or if you're experiencing some cruel collective hallucination. You don't know if you and the others are so desperate for me to be alive, you've conjured me up in your imagination. Well then, Jesus said, touch, see, explore, reach out. Now, we don't know if Thomas literally took up Jesus' invitation. John doesn't tell us. The invitation may have been enough for Thomas. What we do know is this: Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God." Before accepting Jesus' invitation, Thomas endured an ache, a yearning for the Jesus story not to be over, to be true, that there were reasons to believe rather than disbelieve. The ache and yearning Thomas experienced, we all experience in some way. There is an ache and a yearning in us for a story like Easter to be true, for a loving God to really exist. N.T. Wright uses this analogy. He says, there is all the difference in the world between waking up in a single bed and waking up in a double bed, and nobody being on the other side. Many of us may be atheists or agnostics, but we still find ourselves wondering why the other side of the bed still feels warm and the sheets a little rumpled. Now, I'm pretty sure some of you are doubtful about the meaning or even the historicity of the Easter story. You may be agnostic about the existence of God. You're watching by accident, or maybe because you can't shake off the possibility the Easter story is in some way true. Here's what I believe God encourages you to do with your doubt and confusion. It's the same advice Jesus gave Thomas. Reach out, explore, touch, see, investigate. You see, what Thomas discovered when he accepted Jesus' invitation to do just that. Doubt is not a barrier to belief, but a springboard to faith. Exploring his doubts was life-transforming for Thomas, and it can be for you too. What do I do with my Saturdays? What do I do with my doubts and confusion about God? The Easter story encourages us not to ignore them, but to explore them. Not to deny them, but to openly and honestly investigate them. Reach out, explore, touch, see, investigate. Now, if you have any questions about anything I've said so far, about how you can explore your doubts or about the Easter story, I encourage you to contact Wesley Mission, and I promise you we'll be in touch. Visit our website, wesleymission.org.au, to find out how. Right across Australia today, churches will be meeting to celebrate Easter. Why not visit one? I promise, the roof won't collapse on you if you do. Also, if you'd like to speak with someone about the loss of a loved one or any hardship you might be experiencing, please call Lifeline on 13 11 14. I'll see you in a few moments after the break.
I think people are amazing. We can turn dark to light. We can fly through storms. We can change worlds, but we can't always do it alone. If you need help, we could work together. Find out more at wesleymission.org.au. We are here for you.
This is Easter Sunrise, brought to you by Wesley Mission.
Welcome back to this Easter sunrise celebration from Mrs. Macquarie's chair on Gadigal land on the shores of Sydney Harbour. I'm thrilled to introduce our guest today. Last year at the Tokyo Olympic Games, high jump athlete Nicola Mcdermott had us all sitting on the edge of our seats, cheering her along as she jumped more than 2 metres. She posted her personal best and set an Australian women's high jumping record for the 3rd time as she went on to win an Olympic silver medal. It was a wonderful moment, not only for Nicola, but for Australia as well. I caught up with Nicola in her home between training sessions. Nicola, so good to be with you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Where did it all begin?
High jump for me started when I was 8 years old at Gosford Little Athletics. They introduced it to me and I just thought as soon as I tried it that this was the event for me. I found that with all the other events I was quite mediocre, but with high jump it was one of those things that it was a few steps and then I jump over a bar and it was a benefit to be tall. So I stopped growing when I was 14, so I was already very tall. So to find something that I was passionate about and good at, that was a no-brainer for me. I decided this is the thing I need.
Grade 6, you swapped schools. Talk to us about why that was and what impact that had on you.
My brother had just gone to high school in Greenpoint Christian College and it was a K-12 school. So in year 6 they said, we're going to start you early because you're going to be there in high school anyway. And I was thinking, oh no, that's a terrible idea because I'm going to be the only one.
The only new kid.
The only new kid. And I was already 6 foot going into year 6. So I was like a giant walking in. I thought, oh no, they're going to just bully me and I'm going to have to just cop it and then earn their respect through my success or through being smart or something and get through it. So I'd already pulled up like all of these walls and almost getting ready to experience not being accepted. And when I walked in, I was completely accepted for who I was. I walked into not only the teachers, but the students around me just having this love. And they just saw me and they just loved on me. And I said, why, in my head, why would anybody treat me like this? And later that day, they said, we love because Jesus loves us. And it was a moment where I went, I don't know who Jesus is. Okay, well, I need to discover who Jesus is. And it started my journey from year 6, that year of school, of learning the source of that love and the person of love. And when I got that, it was a defining moment that would change the rest of my life.
Through primary school into high school, I mean, how important was athletics for you in terms of just forming and shaping who you are today?
I found that it was a really great way to communicate and make friends because since I was so tall and I was a bit of an outsider, I found making friends was very difficult for me. So when I had sport, I got a community that appreciated me for who I was, and all of a sudden I wasn't weird for being tall, I was celebrated because it's like, yes, she can be on our team. And as a teenager as well, it sort of steadied a routine for me because I had vision and I had goals.
Your faith is clearly something that's not just peripheral to who you are, it's central. You talked about that after winning.
I found that I was making my life identity through my sport, and I kept on pursuing that. I had faith on the side, but my sport was the main thing, and everything was set up perfectly. I was so dissatisfied because I recognised that I'd done everything without God. My identity was in what I did, so as soon as I found that what I did wasn't satisfying me, then life wasn't enough. I made the flick and just went, I'm just going to seek God first, and I'll put sports second. And as soon as I put my faith in the center of my entire life, like what I do, what I believe, why I wake up in the morning, then everything, just this joy came into my life. Everything had meaning. God called me back to sport, but I did it His way. The way that I did university or cleaned cups, the cafe, like everything that I did, the relationships that I had, all of a sudden I had this divine meaning and purpose to it because I could see God's perspective of it. I wanted that to be the fabric that holds me together and that they can see Jesus through me.
Your identity now, if I was to ask you, so who is Nicola Mcdermott? What would you say is your identity?
A child of God.
It's an enormous amount of dedication to be a world-class athlete. What's involved? What sort of commitment level you require?
It goes beyond just training, and it goes beyond just the mental training. I found that in reaching and making the Olympic Games and making the Olympic podium was almost the amount of effort was the exact same. Like I trained 6 days a week. My team just seems to be getting bigger and bigger, even leading up to the Olympics. I had almost a small army of supporters and a community behind me to keep on encouraging me. But personally, it was really the message that you have inside of you. Why are you doing it? Because when you have a strong why, regardless of what's ahead of you, you know that there's such a divine reason for why you're there.
What is your why?
I use it as a platform in order to reach people.
Mm-hmm.
And it brings me so much joy. I love jumping. Like I love that it costs me everything to be able to jump as high as that I do, but I see it as worship because what I've been given from God is a gift.
Talk to us about the people who are around you that really carry you and support you in getting to where you've got to today.
My coach actually picked me up when I was 10 years of age. He saw me and said, I see so much potential in you. I really think that you can jump 2 meters. And to have someone say that...
10 years of age?
Yeah. He said, in 10 years' time, if you stay with me, I reckon we're going to be able to reach those heights. It took him 14, but I won't
hold him.
I won't
to
hold
that.
him to that. No, but I found that when I was encouraged and I had that belief spoken over me as a teenager, made sharing that Olympic moment just so special. My federation with Athletics Australia, we started getting more support in the last couple of years. My strength and conditioning coach, Nicola, she went to New Zealand and we were doing programs remotely. My physio, Brett, he picked me up after the Commonwealth Games in 2018 and said, I'm going to give you free physio every week now because I believe in you. He saw the potential. And then we started forming these beautiful connections, and I got my dietitian from the Institute, then my sports psychologist, Mike, who, he was the one that sort of helped formulate the journal that got all the popularity.
The journaling. Talk to us about that.
Before a competition, you don't really do a lot, and you need to do that. You almost need to be bored in order to be ready to compete, because you want something exciting. You're like, well, I may as well win a competition. That'll be exciting, right? And so I started watercolouring and drawing and things, not only like with my high jump techniques and things, but also things that inspired or encouraged me, or particular like sentences and words and things that would bring fire into my heart and go, yeah, like this really helps me. For example, Tokyo, 2 hours and 45 minutes was that competition, and you're in the zone the entire time. I'd wrote myself notes, and I wrote myself even like Bible verses, scripture verses, like all throughout it, because I wanted to remind me of who I am. For Tokyo, I've got the raw analysis, and I can look at it now and I can learn so much from it. Having that self-analysis of what I need to do to jump the next height and what I did right made it so fluent, because when I'm jumping now, if I miss the bar or make the bar, it doesn't actually matter. Win or lose, doing a high jump or doing a low jump, there's always something to learn.
Yeah, and I feel like when the camera zoomed in on some of those pages, we got a bit of an insight into who you are.
This is a very private part of my processing and of my life, but what I've got in here, I'm willing to share.
You talked before, beautiful and very powerful, about your athletic career being a form of worship. You've started a new ministry called Everlasting Crowns. What's that all about?
My heart is to equip and train and reach athletes in the field where we are. If you really change the life of an athlete, when they go back to their country and their community, they'll change an entire country. Sometimes sports stars are almost like the celebrities and can reach the most in their countries. So that's my ministry, of reaching the people in sport as well as at the top, because then I can see like the impact that they can have in their own communities.
So before we finish, can we have a look at the bling, the medal?
The medal?
Yeah, the
yes.
medal.
I mean, you can hold it,
Fantastic.
wear it.
Oh my gosh, how heavy is this?
I know.
Nicola, I mean, this is an incredible achievement. Where does this rate for you? I mean, it's a silver medal. I mean, there are not many people in the world who have this, particularly in athletics in Australia. It's a huge achievement.
Yeah, the rating, I know I'm quite good at rating out of 10.
Yes, you are. In fact,
a
you're
10
famous
out of
for
10 experience for me, but it's not the highlight yet because there's more to come. So it's a nice reminder of what is possible, but there's so much greater to still come.
It was a real privilege to spend time with Nicola in her home and to talk with her about her life, her sport and her ministry. On this Easter Sunday, we're exploring the 3 days of the Easter story: Friday, Saturday and Sunday, through the 3 questions first posed by Rick Warren. What do I do in my days of pain? How do I get through my days of doubt and confusion? How do I get to the days of joy and victory? Let's turn to Sunday and the third and last question. How do I get to my days of joy and victory? On Friday, the day Jesus was crucified, the disciples descended into a pit of despair and grief that lasted through Saturday and into at least Sunday morning for most of them, and beyond for some. Their situation, as well as their future, seemed hopeless. Where is joy when despair threatens to become not just a moment or a season, but our life story? Where do we find hope when life seems to be crashing down around us? On that first Easter Sunday, the disciples didn't so much find hope as hope found them. And this resurrection hope transformed them in an instant and for eternity. As we heard earlier, the resurrection accounts tell us that while it was still dark, very early in the morning, before the sun had even risen, some women went to the tomb. Mary discovers the stone had been rolled away, and inside the tomb, Jesus' burial shroud had been neatly folded up in a similar way to a bed being made after a long sleep. Afterwards, Jesus appeared to his friends and disciples, women and men. In fact, over the next 40 days, he appeared to hundreds of them, 500 together on one occasion. These resurrection encounters were utterly transformative. Defeat became victory. Sorrow had become joy. Despair was now hope. All because, through Jesus, death had become life. And this hope was neither temporary nor was it fleeting. It was lifelong and is eternal. If Jesus' resurrection happened, and it did, that means our resurrection is going to happen. Where do I find joy? Where do I find victory and hope? I find it in the Sunday story, that strange, wonderful, true story of resurrection. I find joy, victory and hope, not just in the story of Jesus' resurrection, but in the promise of mine, the promise I have received as I place my faith and my trust in Jesus and his victory. Someone much wiser than me puts it this way: resurrection means that the worst thing is never the last thing. A youth pastor and writer, Mike Yaconelli, tells us the story of a young couple who for 5 years had been trying to fall pregnant without success. With strong faith, nevertheless, hard questions haunted them. God was seemingly unresponsive to their prayers. Then the miracle happened. They became pregnant, even better with twins. The questions were gone in an instant. God was good and so was their world. Then the unraveling began. During a routine checkup, their doctor discovered serious problems. One of their babies had tragically died in the womb and the other had little chance of survival. The questions returned with a vengeance. Why? Where was God? What kind of God would do this? The bottom fell out of their world as anger, grief, and exhaustion took their toll. Their faith was hanging by a thread. Friends noticed how the husband especially seemed to be exhausted. And so Mike accompanied him on a week of silent retreat. One of the spiritual exercises was to walk in the retreat ground and find God in nature. It made the grief-stricken husband furious. Why bother? God was as good as dead to him. He wasn't going to waste an hour looking for a God he barely believed existed and was a tyrant if he did. And so he decided he would sabotage the experience by walking on the concrete path and stare only at the ground, deliberately averting his gaze from the trees and the gardens and the ponds, the beauty all around him. The man explained later to Mike what happened. He says this: I was about halfway up the walkway, walking very slowly, lost in my anger and resentment to God, when the tears began. I was not conscious of my tears until my mind caught up with my heart. There were cracks in the concrete. The entire pathway was covered in cracks. I realized my tears were not because of the cracks, they were caused by what was in the cracks. In every crack, a flower. Somehow in the midst of the grey, lifeless concrete, life made its way through. Suddenly, he said, I was conscious of God. He was alive. He surprised me with his flowers. He found a way to show me hope in the midst of despair. His love and care had found me. Flowers in the cracks of this world are signs of a greater world to come, a world where death, sorrow, pain and grief will be swallowed up in victory. While Good Friday and the crucifixion tells us that Jesus carried our pain, Easter Sunday and the resurrection declares he will transform it. What do I do in my days of pain and sorrow? Easter. How do I get through my days of doubt and confusion? Easter. How do I get to my days of joy and victory? Where do I find hope? Easter, my friends. If you have any questions about anything I've said today, about what you can do with your pain, where you can take your doubts, how to experience joy, or about the Easter story, I encourage you to contact Wesley Mission, and I promise you we'll be in touch. Visit our website, wesleymission.org.au, to find out how. I'll see you in a few moments after the break.
I think people are amazing. We can turn dark to light. We can fly through storms. We can change worlds, but we can't always do it alone. If you need help, we could work together. Find out more at wesleymission.org.au. We are here for you.
This is Easter Sunrise, brought to you by Wesley Mission.
Thanks for joining us this morning as we've started our Easter Day here on the shores of Sydney Harbour, celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Whatever Easter means to you and your loved ones, I hope you found a fresh and perhaps deeper appreciation of the importance of Easter and of God's love for everyone, always. In a moment, City of Light will sing the world premiere of their new song called "This Is the Day." But first, we'll hear from our national leaders who have accepted our invitation to share an Easter greeting with you.
On behalf of the Australian Labor Party, I wish the many Christians across Australia a happy and a holy Easter. As we mark the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, we can take comfort in the feeling of hope inspired by the words of the gospel. He is risen. That feeling of hope inspires us all as we begin to emerge from the pandemic and look towards a better future. This Easter, we will keep in our prayers the Australians who have been so devastated by the recent floods. I send my very best wishes to the many people celebrating this weekend and hope that you can finally gather safely with your family and in your churches. A happy Easter to you and your family.
Happy Easter, everyone. Today we celebrate the heart of our faith, the empty tomb, the resurrection of Jesus, the moment that transcends human history and that strengthens us all when all seems to be lost in our own worlds. This year, as we gather on Easter morning, we feel a mix of emotions. Joy, for Christ is risen. Gratitude, because we can gather and sing again, emerging from this pandemic and warming the embers of our faith in worship. And we feel mindful of the world we share. This Easter, we pray for the people of Ukraine, for their safety and for their security, and ultimately for justice and peace. This Easter morning, I also want to express my deep gratitude for the Wesley Mission, for all of your efforts living out the call of your faith, that Great Commission. You live out the values of the gospel at Wesley through your work with children, families and seniors, and lending a hand wherever it's needed. I'm so grateful for you being the hands and feet of Christ. On this Easter morning, I wish all Australians a happy Easter. May it be filled with joy, may it be filled with faith, and may it be filled with hope. God bless.
This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice as we lift his name. This is the day that the Lord has made. Come and rejoice, we'll rejoice and be glad in it. Whether the sun will shine, whether the skies will rain, I know that you are good, and this is the day you made. Whether in life or death, whether in joy or pain, I know this truth remains. This is the day you made. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice as we lift his name. This is the day that the Lord has made. Come and rejoice, we will rejoice and be glad in it. will protect my ways. Your every work is good. This is the day you made. I am a child of yours. You are the one who saves. I am redeemed by love. This is the day you made. This is the day that the Lord has made. We will rejoice as we lift his name. This is the day that the Lord has made. Come and rejoice. We will rejoice and be glad. Day, come and sing your praise, for the Lord now reigns on the throne of grace. Soon is the day he will bring us home, and we have this hope, for we are his own. This is the day, come and sing your praise, for the Lord now
I think people are amazing. We can turn dark to light. We can fly through storms. We can change worlds, but we can't always do it alone. If you need help, we could work together. Find out more at wesleymission.org.au. We are here for you.
Thank you so much for being a part of the program today. It's my privilege to be able to share with you in this Easter celebration. Easter comes but once a year, and if at no other time, I'd like to encourage you to visit a local church today, or at least some point this week. They'll all be sharing the same Easter message. The Easter story tells us that new life, a fresh start, is available to us all, that there is an eternal hope for humanity. Thank you to Channel 9 and all our radio partners. Thanks to Olympic silver medalist Nicola Mcdermott, to our leaders from around the nation who shared an Easter greeting, to the team at City of Light for all the music this morning, and of course, to you for joining us. If you'd like to relive this Easter sunrise celebration, head over to the Wesley Mission website and follow the links. Thank you once again. Happy Easter and God bless.